Well, they meet again. Georgia and Alabama are back in the national title. I could not be more excited. Everyone kind of saw this coming, I believe. Georgia, a lot of people had them beating Michigan. A lot of people had Alabama beating Cincinnati. So there's really no shocker in the playoffs this year. People pretty much got what they expected, whether they agree or are in favor of an SEC national title. I don't know. But anyways, Aiden, go ahead and give your thoughts. It's a rematch. What, do you think anything's going to change? You expecting somewhat of the same from the SEC title game? What's your opinion going forward on this?
Yeah, both teams are coming off pretty dominant wins in their semifinal playoff game. Alabama controlling the ball against Cincy really well, running the ball, dominating them on the line of scrimmage, really showing them what that SEC line, what the difference is between a Power 5 school and a non-Power 5. And Georgia just ran away with the game against Michigan early. Stetson Bennett played outstanding, I thought, especially, how Georgia fans, some of them don't still think JT Daniels should have played in that game before that game started. I don't think anybody's saying that now, but people all season were saying Stetson Bennett couldn't take y'all to the national championship, and here he is. But as far as the game against Alabama goes, I said it in the SEC championship, or the video we made reviewing the SEC championship. I think that as good as Georgia's defense is, it's Nick Saban's defense. Kirby Smart got that defense from Nick Saban. No matter what decorations and sprinkles he wants to add to it, it's still Nick Saban's at its core. And I think any master knows their own kryptonite. So Nick Saban's going to know the weaknesses to that defense and how to exploit it, and which I think we saw in the SEC championship with that cover 2 shell that Georgia loves to run. There was a lot of receivers open in the middle of the field for Alabama, and I think that is probably going to be the case again. I think that Georgia's defense is going to come out and be a lot more physical, and they're going to be coming back for revenge, but I still think that Nick Saban has a great mind, and in my experience, I would never bet against Nick Saban. So last time I checked, they're 3-point underdogs, so I love Alabama to win.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about Stetson Bennett, I would like to give him a lot of credit. When you criticize a guy for playing bad, you got to give him praise when he plays good. That was one of Stetson Bennett's best, most complete game he's played all season. I was just a little worried watching that game. Georgia again just didn't dominate the second half. Honestly, Michigan kind of had the upper hand most of the second half, but they were just down by so much early on that there was nothing they could really do. I think Michigan outscored them in the second half like 8-7. Georgia's got to find a way to put points on the board in the second half. This is just a common thing for Georgia. It happens every year they play Alabama. They'll dominate Alabama. They'll play, pretty much with them. It'll be a competitive game, and in the second half, that's where the things just start unraveling for the Dogs. So that's the key going into this game, 100%. Georgia has to play 2 halves, not 1 half, not 3 quarters. They got to play the full 60 minutes. And if they do that, I think Georgia can win the game. If Stetson Bennett comes out and has another performance like he did against Michigan, I think Georgia can win the game. If Georgia can find a way to get some pressure this time on Bryce Young, I think Georgia has a good shot at winning the game. I like Georgia. I understand why people favor Georgia in this game, regardless of what happened a few weeks ago. Yeah, Alabama beat them. Yeah, it wasn't really competitive, but we've seen this before. We saw it in 2017. Georgia played Auburn, a team that Georgia, a lot of people thought were better than. And then Auburn, the first time they met up, 140-17, a blowout win. Georgia came back, SEC title a few weeks later, and then beat the brakes off of Auburn. An interesting stat line, too. There have been 4 rematches total. If you go back in the playoff era where a team will meet another team in the regular season and then meet again in the playoffs. Each time, those teams split the series. So whoever wins the first time between those 2 teams loses the second time. And it's happened all 4 times. So could this be the 5th? I'm not sure. But yeah,
it's an interesting stat.
It is. And then Alabama, I think they look good against Cincinnati, but you can just definitely see where John Mechie not being in the lineup kind of hurt him a little bit. There was a lot of times Alabama's offense stalled. Brian Robinson had a great game. That was a career game for him. I was not expecting Alabama to win on the ground. And if they can find a way to get Brian Robinson going in this game, I think it's going to be tough for Georgia to really stop him and hold him to under 40 points again. And if that's the case, then Georgia's going to lose. I think it's a first team to 30 wins this game. I expect some points to be scored in this game. I really do. I don't think Alabama's going to be able to exploit Georgia as much in the secondary this time, especially with John Mechie being out, although Alabama has great receivers behind Mechie. No one's John Mechie. John Mechie just has the experience, and experience goes a long ways, especially in games like this.
I agree. But if you look at the SEC championship, a lot of, excluding a couple jump balls they threw to him, a lot of his passes, he was open. Those were schemed up. So I think it's more of a scheme thing with the defense and the passing game. But like you were saying, if Alabama can get the run game going and have Georgia's defense guessing, it's going to be over for Georgia quick. It's going to be imperative for Georgia to stop that run game that Alabama hasn't really shown, throughout the last couple of games before the semifinal game. They didn't show that they could dominate a team on the ground like that and run the ball like that. So if they can make Georgia's defense guess, it could be an ugly night for Georgia. But on the other hand, like you were saying, when Bryce Young's been pressured, he's been proven to crumble against Auburn, like you pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn really should have won that game. Bryce Young did not play well when he was under pressure. And even against Cincinnati, whenever Cincinnati did get pressure on him, he made some mistakes. So if Georgia's defense could find a way to set the tone early, maybe get a couple sacks would be huge. Deflected balls, anything to really change the momentum early and get it swinging in Georgia's direction could be a huge momentum shift for Georgia.
Yeah, and Bryce Young really didn't have that good of a game against Cincinnati. I think he threw for like 3 touchdowns, but he only threw for about 180 yards. And I know the strength of Cincinnati's defense is really their secondary. They got a lot of guys that are going to be playing, hell, even starting on Sundays here before too long. I think the secondary did okay for Cincinnati, but really the front seven for them did a great job getting pressure on Bryce Young, which is something Georgia wasn't able to do, which is just the weirdest thing. I don't see that being the case. I think Georgia's going to be able to get to Bryce Young a time or two this time around. And once they do that, if they get some sacks and have Bryce Young thinking, kind of worried about that pressure and kind of throw him off his game, that's really going to put Georgia in a better position. And then Stetson Bennett, again, he's just going to have another career day. The last time Georgia played Alabama in the SEC title game, Stetson Bennett didn't really play bad. It's just when he started, when they started needing him to throw the ball and throw him back into the game, that's where you started seeing the turnovers. And that's really why you saw him excel the way he did against Michigan. If you don't need Stetson Bennett to throw you into the game, he's a great quarterback. I've never ever said like Stetson Bennett's a bad quarterback or a terrible quarterback, not an SEC quarterback. He is a good quarterback if you can get him in the right position. If you get your team ahead, like if Georgia gets ahead. He's going to make the right reads. He's not going to feel under pressure. And if he doesn't have to use his arm to win you the game, he's going to do just fine. So Georgia really has to put themselves in a position where they're up. I think really a key for Georgia is they have to find a way to be up by 2 scores going into the second half. I just have a feeling it's going to be the same old, same old. I can see Georgia coming out in the first half looking great. And then that second half, that pressure is going to start falling on them. The mental side of things, I think, is really going to start, going against them. So I think with that being said, Georgia really has to build that lead on early, and that's easier said than done against Alabama and Nick Saban. So I'm not saying that's something that's going to happen. Anyways, I think we're about ready to go ahead and make picks. So Aiden, 3-point favorites, the Georgia Bulldogs. Do you like that or no?
No, I'm taking Alabama. I just think that Nick Saban, betting against him, like I said earlier, it's just something that I would advise against. I think schematically Alabama's offense is going to have something for the defense in the passing game, and if they can get the run game going like they did in the semifinal game, it could even get ugly. And I also feel like Alabama's O-line, which was heavily criticized, was called possibly Nick Saban's worst O-line that he's had at Alabama. They've stepped it up and played tremendously these last 3 or 4 games ever since the Auburn game. So I think if they can hold that pass rush coming from Georgia's defense and give C.J. Stroud some time to throw, Alabama is going to get this done.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at all the factors. You look at how Alabama played Georgia a few weeks ago. Really, Georgia just, especially in the second half, could not get anything going. You look at Stetson Bennett's touchdown passes. A lot of those were the receivers making the play, kind of bailing them out. Yeah, Georgia definitely, looked good in the first half. They have to do that for 2 halves, though. If they can do that for 2 halves, Georgia wins the game. So is that going to happen? I don't know. I have no clue. Alabama definitely looked good last week. I think Alabama could easily get back in the 30s and 40s. Yeah, things are stacked against Georgia. A lot of people are taking Alabama. I don't care. I'm taking Georgia. Give me all 3 of those points. I don't give a damn. Georgia's going to win this game. And you could type all you want, Alabama fans, teams that hate Georgia, type all you want. Georgia's winning this game. They're winning by more than 3 points, and I'm taking the Dogs. But yeah, y'all, that's our preview and prediction for the Georgia-Alabama national title game. I'm really excited for this game. I'm sure everyone is too, regardless if you're for the SEC or not. These are definitely the 2 best teams in college football, and I expect another great match. It's hard for me to see this being another blowout, the stakes being as high as they are now. If you guys haven't already, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We've definitely grown a little bit over the past week, and I could not be more excited. And I can't thank you guys enough for being able to, for showing up and showing us some love, especially you guys that routinely comment on the channel. So I just can't appreciate that enough. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. We'll catch you in the next one. See you.